Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson.
So my question is, was he that good at pretending to not be mean around you? Or was he really good at gaslighting you to make you believe he is being nice when he's not? And you might not know, so just skip the question because
or was I that good at ignoring it and pushing it under and living in my own false sense of reality?
I know, but that's true. That's a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was my fact. That's a fact of probably all SLDs or codependents listening. But the reason I ask you that is I want people to understand that covert narcissists need us to blame ourselves and to feel like we're missing something when in the background they're orchestrating it. So
yes, that is very true.
When did things fall apart? When did it become intolerable for you?
So around our 10th wedding anniversary was a massive blow up and a big ordeal that was very eye-opening for me. And I'm not going to share the whole story here, but if you listen to my podcast, you'll find it there. Mm-hmm. But it's really the first time that I really thought, okay, something is wrong here. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not me trying to cover everything up anymore. It was the first time I think I put my own glasses down and went, what's going on? I started.
You probably put your own glasses down, but those he put in the lenses.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, but go ahead. So yep. you put your glasses down and you started to see things differently.
I did. I started to kind of watch more. I became more of an observer. Now I was still pretty hooked. I'm not going to say it was instant. And like I said, this whole process was very gradual, but it started to become a little more frequent that I just kept watching, going, why is he behaving this way? Instead of instantly jumping in to fix it.
Right.
And I started opening up to a friend of mine. We had been that phase lasted still again for several years. So about 14 years into our marriage, wow. I actually, for the first time, opened up to a friend of mine at a coffee shop and just said, I'm really confused in my marriage and I'm really not happy. And she and I just started talking like a lot. And we were having coffee about once a month. And I would be on the phone with her on a regular basis. And the more I talked with her, she kept encouraging me, go see a therapist, go talk to somebody, go explore this. And she kept pushing on that. And no, it's okay. I don't need a therapist. Like, we're okay. And I I'd dig in and do the work I needed to do or believed I needed to do. And finally, 17 years into the marriage, I set an appointment with a therapist. And I went and talked with them. And at this point, the word narcissism was not even on my radar. Like this, no. I went into the therapy session and he said to me, okay, tell me why you're here. And I said, well, I'm here to talk about two things. And he said, okay. And I said, my church and my marriage.
Right.
And he kind of laughed and went, boy, that's a loaded statement in and of itself. And so I started opening up about my marriage. Within 5 minutes, he said, do you know what the word narcissism is? And I said, kind of. I said, I mean, I know a little bit about it, but he said, let me describe it to you. My jaw hit the ground as he described what I was living.
So he described probably the diagnosis, narcissistic personality disorder. And I say that because there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet where we talk about mean, nasty narcissists, but to someone who's a psychotherapist, there's an actual disorder, a personality disorder. That is a person that has no ability to understand why they're hurting someone and change, and is sometimes ruthlessly focused just on themselves. So he put the light bulb over your head that went off. It sounded
yes. Although I'm going to say, even in that first session, one thing he said to me kicked me right back into my, I'm going to fix this mode, because one of the things he said to me was, narcissists don't ever change. And my immediate words to him were, then my husband's not a narcissist because he can change. Help me find the right words so that he can change.
So
I still was trying to fix this.
Yeah. So you had not yet had your podcast, and I had not yet probably had my YouTube videos out there, and the world they were unaware of covert narcissists. And
Right.
as I say, covert narcissists have elements of antisocial personality disorder or sociopathy. And so they actually know what they're doing. And so they need to seem human for the codependent, which would be me in a relationship or you, so that they can be, so that the victim like you or me who has empathy, look at them as human. And so they have to like inculcate that belief. And so it was a shock to your system when you heard this
Very
guy
much so.
incorrectly tell you about one type of narcissist.
Yes.
So you thought he could change. And what did you end up figuring out?
So he recommended a book, and the book is titled The Wizard of Oz and Other Narcissists.
Oh my gosh, my favorite book on narcissism.
Yes. And he recommended it. And I stopped on the way home and I bought that book. I stopped at a bookstore and I bought the book.
Eleanor Payson, and it is The Wizard. What's it called? The Wizard
of Oz and Other Narcissists.
Buy the book.
Oh yes, buy the book. It's a fantastic book. And I went home that night and everybody had gone to bed and I sat down on my couch and I started reading. And I thought, okay, I'm going to see what he's talking about here. First chapter, I mean, a lot of things line up, not quite, right, not, okay, it's there. Then I get into this next section and it's covert narcissism. And check. I start checking boxes. This lines up. I sat there on the couch and just sobbed.
Right.
Somebody gets it. I finally felt seen. I finally felt heard. I finally felt validated. Somebody out there gets it enough that they even wrote a book about it.
Right. And what also happened, probably unconsciously, the spell that he created, because it did not happen by accident. You, like most of us, we think it's our fault. But if you lasted 17 years, he consciously did things or didn't do things to keep you in the dark. And so you started to see him like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain. Yes. Yeah. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Right.
And then it started watching. And then I really became an observer of my marriage. Because even this was at 17 years of marriage. And I still was there another 3 years. The divorce did not happen until almost 21 years of marriage. And I just, everything was clicking. All of a sudden, I'm looking at it going, okay, that's why I feel this way. That's why I feel this way. That's why. And I started putting the pieces together. So I continued with this therapist actually for quite a while. And my goal at that point was to learn everything I could possibly learn about narcissism, covert narcissism, codependency, everything. Again, and what can I do to help my kids? Because at that point, I was dug in for all I was worth to help them.
Sounds like a great therapist. You got lucky. A lot of them, unfortunately, don't have a clue about codependency, which is why I wrote my books and why I'm writing my next book, The Codependency Revolution. But he sounded like he also knew a lot about pathological narcissism and the connection.
Yes. Yes. Well, he had his own experience with it in his past.
Right.
And I think that's the key. I don't think somebody can truly understand this unless they've lived it too.
Yeah. So your eyes are getting open. You're learning more. Without knowing it, he's neutralizing and reversing the gaslighting. You're starting to understand who he is not equal to what you see or what he wants you to see. So where did that lead? Where did that lead you?
So it actually, one of the things that happened for me was now when the gaslighting came or the blaming, a lot of blame shifting, going on, a lot of guilt manipulating. When these things were happening, I remember in my mind, used to be that would send me into that fight or flight response, the pit in my stomach and all the adrenaline and all of this. Now, instead, when that happened in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, thank you. I needed another one to make sure I understand this. Now I can understand a little bit better, a little bit more. And then when we get into that, there's this weird peacefulness that a weird calmness that just happens because this abuse amnesia, which is a real thing. And the next morning after he's treated me, abusively, it's like it just disappeared, from his world, and it used to disappear from my world.
Abuse amnesia. Tell our listeners what that means. Tell me what it means, because it sounds really like a really good term. What's abuse amnesia?
Yes. Well, so it's when, okay, you go to bed that night in absolutely in tears because of the circular conversation, the 4-hour long conversation. You're blamed for everything. Maybe it turns into a full-on fight. Who knows? And you go to bed, and the next morning it's, oh, hey, babe, do you want a cup of coffee? Can I make you some breakfast? It's like it never happened.
And so
it just goes away.
So to the abuse amnesia, I will add a codependent has unconscious, subconscious fear of abandonment, pathological loneliness, and they so much identify safety in a relationship that it sabotages your rational thinking. So that fear is so deep and unconscious that there is a stronger need to forget it.
So when they wake up pretending like everything's fine,
right?
You jump right on board with that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then we were living in this, like, it's like you're just in this weird, like, twilight zone is what I used to call it, of just none of that happened. And I would be in that weird place. And I remember thinking, well, that's okay. He'll show me again. It's okay to just be okay being peaceful while I'm getting healing, while I'm figuring out how to help my kids, while I'm figuring out what I'm going to do in my life. I was able to allow things to just disappear now because I understood it more. And I always knew it would come back. I always could count. It's the one thing I could always count on, is it will come back.
What will come back?
The abusiveness. Right. The gaslighting, the blaming, like, even though things right now he's being nice. That's what I hear from people a lot when they meet with me, is what do I do now when he or she is being nice? And I'm like, you just accept the peacefulness while you go figure out what you want to do in your life and with your world and make sense of this. But you don't have to stay angry at him all the time. It's okay to not.
In a sense, you're out of the trance. And I suggest the trance was, as SLDs, we bring that to the relationship, and the narcissist creates it. So you're out of the trance, you're seeing things, you're not forgetting things, you're collecting information. What happens next?
So you're collecting. I started journaling and documenting everything, all the memories I had, all the current things going on. I just started, like a madman. I was doing all of this. And then I remember reaching the point where I actually wrote it, and I typed it because this was on the computer, but I typed "the prosecution rest."
That's so interesting.
I didn't need any more. I didn't need any more evidence. I didn't need any more proof. And I started moving towards divorce.
You neutralize the gaslighting. You neutralize the generationally implanted SLDD denial or codependency denial. And so you woke up, you saw it for what it was. So you sought a divorce, and from there, what happened?
So the divorce part was actually pretty smooth and easy. I will say that. He, very much so wanted to protect his image and all of this. And I let him. I'm like, I don't have anything to defend to him anymore. I don't have anything to prove to him anymore. And so that part actually was pretty quick and easy and over. And so
wait, hold on. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to make an important distinction. It went easy because he's a covert narcissist. He's a sociopath. You are smart, intelligent. You figure things out. He has more to lose. He's not a typical grandiose narcissist where he's oblivious. He knows what's going on. And if he should fight it, there's more to lose. So then he's better off at being that it's
amicable.
And that's a sign of covert narcissism, who has effectively and accurately evaluated the person to know they're a threat, to let them go.
Yeah. No, that's fair, and that's a very, very valid point. And I'm gonna have to ponder that some, because I definitely, I like what you're saying there, and I definitely would agree with that. Yeah. And so the divorce happened, and I just kind of moved forward with my life. My Facebook group definitely exploded. I started the Facebook group before the divorce actually had happened, before we'd filed or anything. But it was after that then that I just poured so much more time and energy into it. And so now, my healing path has been just exploded on me. My boys, it really changed my relationship with them. Within the marriage, actually, my relationship with them changed a lot, because when I quit putting so much effort and energy into my marriage and quit like defending him, quit, in essence, gaslighting my kids, then my relationship with them really became a relationship of honesty and trust and safety.
Yeah, you woke up. You were in a trance. He was more diabolical than you thought, because, of course, all SLDs come to the relationship with their own stuff that makes them the perfect victim for a covert narcissist. But you woke up. You started to see the world as it was, and your children. I imagine, like flowers or needing extra sunlight and extra water. Beautiful children already just began to flourish because you were now, they needed a mom who was awake. So that sounds really cool.
Yes. They absolutely began to flourish, but they also had their own, at that point, they had to go through the process as well of putting their own glasses down.
That's hard.
And so there definitely was some painful periods of that growth as well.
Especially if he's also in their heads. But they had a role model mother who was going to show them what's real and what's true. So you started. So your Facebook page started to explode. When did this harrowing experience, this triumph of human spirit, of your courage, of your survival, and motivation to survive, when or how did that translate into you becoming a coach?
So when I say I dug into the research on covert narcissism, I have a master's in music, and I researched a lot in that. There's a lot of effort that went into that. It doesn't touch the amount of research I put into narcissism. I mean, I dove in full on. It's like doing the work of a PhD is how it, I got my marriage certificate, but instead I came out with a PhD in narcissism. and so I was doing all of this, educating myself and reading, and I was doing it for myself and for my kids. In the Facebook group, then now I'm interacting with other people there. And as I am, number one, it's making my journey make a little more sense, because they're saying things that maybe I hadn't thought of it that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I need to look into that. And I'm now helping them, and we're helping each other. And I love a community. I love a community. Okay. My logo is 4 heads with their arms around each other.
Oh, that's cool.
I love a community. And every time I was able to help somebody, it validated my journey a little bit more. It made my journey make a little more sense. And they were experiencing the same thing with me and with each other. It really became a place for people to help each other.
Right.
And as this developed, I thought, why in the world? I need to go ahead and get some certification and some, let's take this a little further. And so then I explored into life coaching, and that's the path I went.
Very cool. And tell us about, and I love that story. And if we had another hour, that part would be like as interesting as everything else. But I'm sorry, we're running out of time. But tell us a little bit about what you became. Where are you now as a life coach, as one of the leading voices on this topic, an inspirational person, a person who is a role model. What do you do now, and what's it like for you?
So when I was post-divorce, it was about a year maybe post-divorce, I was getting overwhelmed with reading what people were putting in the Facebook group, and it was triggering to me. Like it was, I couldn't handle it emotionally. And I actually walked away for about 6 months. I will say this. I walked away from that group. I put it in the hands of a trusted friend. And I told the group, look, I got to take a break from narcissism. If I'm not thinking about narcissism all the time, what in the world do I think about? Like, I needed some of me, at that point, because I was still feeling pretty just overwhelmed by all of it. That phase really was a transition for me, because that's where I really, Debbie Mirza calls it cocooning. That's where I really kind of isolated myself, made my world smaller and safer, and spent a lot of energy into my own healing. When I came back out of that, like in essence, came up for air, or, became the butterfly out of the cocoon, I was ready. I was like, okay, we are doing this. I am out there now to help this world. And so that's the mission. I want to reach out. I want people to know they're not alone. I am a firm believer in the value of community, which is, again, where in this Facebook group, the whole goal of that group is for people to help each other. It's not for professionals coming in. It's not for, because we're very firm on no soliciting. It's for neighbors helping neighbors, people helping people. And the value of that. So I'm very community based, and so now I've got a little team.
Really quickly. So this whole cocooning thing, for 6 months, the way I see it is, is a very healthy process. You needed to build space in between your journey of coming out and surviving and protecting yourself and your kids, and time to get to know yourself, to heal, or what I would call build self-love abundance, so that you had this foundation of mental health. And when you got there, you then move forward. That is an extraordinary self-awareness and an extraordinary decision. So, and kudos goes to you. So,
well, thank you. It was a valuable decision.
I didn't want to miss that part. So please continue.
Yeah, so that was a very, very valuable decision for me. And then as this has grown, I will say I'm very humbled by just the response of the world. This reaches around the world. This is not exclusive to, U.S. or North America or England or Scotland or whatever. It's not exclusive to any single location, any single career path, any gender, any race. It's not. This is so widespread, and it breaks my heart every time that people are in need of this kind of help. But thank God we've got it, and we're able to give that and able to reach out and provide that.
You are quite modest. So, and I respect that. You actually have made a huge impression on the global scale. How much is your podcast listened to? You're like one of the top podcasters on the subject. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes, you are correct. And honestly, I don't read a lot of the numbers. I let my producer do that, and I just keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah. But I know that we've had over 1 million downloads. I know that, we are hitting record numbers every time, with all the releases. And I want to get to the point where, I could release an episode every day, but that's not a commitment I can uphold right now, in my own world. But I have a lot of visions of where I want all of this to go. I'm constantly, expanding our reach as gently as I can, because I refuse to make this, so costly that nobody can get the help they want. And so it's just little gentle bumps in what I'm doing and the work that I'm providing.
So tell our listeners and viewers what services your CNG group provide, and how they can get in touch with you, how they can reach out for help.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I want to say one little piece about the letters C and G. So that's Covert Narcissism Group. That's how that started. Yeah. Well, then as I started to do this, I had people who can't have the word narcissism show up on their, Facebook feed or their credit card statement or anything. And so CNG that's part of why we shortcutted it to be those 3 letters, stands for community and grace.
Oh, that's
Yeah. And I have two websites. I have covertnarcissism.com. That is my main website in regards to just information, getting information out there to everybody. But then I also have a separate website that's cnglifecoaching.com. That website is where people then go to find me for setting up sessions or any of that. So that just looks like a life coaching page and does not have that connection to the word narcissism.
It's interesting. For different reasons, I am a big proponent of changing the name codependency to self-love deficit disorder, because one is highly stigmatized and has a negative reputation, and one represents a problem that has a solution. So thank you so much for this fascinating interview story, because I have no doubt your story and your triumph over what some people think they can never overcome.
And I will say, I was one of those people who thought I could never overcome this. And if I can do it, you can do it. If people are stronger than they know, stronger than they think they are, and there's grace to be found, and there's healing to be found. There is life after narcissism.
Yes, there is. Well, let's not make this the second and the last. I look forward to the next time we talk, because when I talk to you, I learn a lot. I appreciate you even more, and I just have fun. So thank you for that. And
thank you, Ross. Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you. It's a pleasure to get to know you and to spend this time together.
Thank you. You take care now. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism Podcast with your host, Renee Swanson. Be sure to check out our website at www.covertnarcissism.com. There you will find many resources just for you to help you on this journey. You can also reach out to me by email at Renee, RENEE, at cnglifecoaching.com. Those letters are CNG, as in Covert Narcissism Group. I do look forward to hearing from you. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson and the Covert Narcissism Podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. It does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.